Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. I'm Mike Conti with Jason Longshore, Atlanta United's radio broadcast team, here to preview this weekend's match with Chicago Fire, to talk about all the things going on with Atlanta United this week. We're going to get into getting fans back at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 50% capacity on Saturday. But before we begin, thank you all for the feedback on last week's show. We're glad you're enjoying this year's expanded format, which gives us a little more time to get into details with things going on with the club and around the league. And I certainly appreciate your feedback. I know Jason does too. And fortunately, Jason, we get to start this week with a positive result from last Saturday in Orlando.
Yeah, it was a good result. It was against a tough opponent in Orlando City, and it was a tough match. It's two very evenly matched teams who, in some ways, canceled one another out. Both teams had chances. Both teams created chances. Both teams had the same number of shots on target. And to go on the road and get a result in this is impressive. After what Atlanta had to do in the CONCACAF Champions League, after playing on Tuesday and then turning around and going to Orlando and facing one of the better teams from last season, you're never happy with a draw. And I think Gabriel Heinze made that very clear afterwards. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a bad result. There are things to build on. There are things that can be better with this team going forward, but it's a good start. The foundation is coming together, and the line that Gabriel used in the post-game media availability that has stuck with me all week is the path that they're on is the right one and will lead to success.
He also said that the other team is trying to win too, and that goes into the psychology of everything. Orlando was a little bit tough to break down at times, but I like the fact, Jason, that as the match went on, as it got into the late moments, Franco Ibarra, for example, had a really good opportunity late, I think even in the 90th minute. It felt like Atlanta United was closing the match on a very, very strong footing and might have been the better team in the final 5 or 10 minutes, which, if you're looking for any kind of momentum coming into this week, maybe that's a good sign.
Yeah, 100%. I think Franco Ibarra brought life to the midfield that was needed at that point. I thought Machop Chol, who we'll talk about a little bit later, making his debut, brought some life to the flanks. You needed that on a hot day in Orlando. I think the heat did affect Atlanta over time. You're not 100% where you want to be fitness-wise yet either. And Atlanta found a way to battle and get the point. You want to build on that for your home opener this week.
Well, Atlanta United now on the third longest clean sheet streak in club history, their longest since 2019 when Brad Guzan went on that phenomenal run of 5 consecutive clean sheets, all victory. And let's put Brad in the spotlight. A clean sheet on Saturday, not only strong goalkeeping, but also involved in the buildup as well.
Yeah, the buildup was really important for him, but the saves he made, he got a good look at all of them. They were comfortable, with one exception that we're about to see, where it takes a deflection in front and you see the experience of somebody like Brad Guzan. He commanded his box well. He made the saves that he needed to make, the comfortable ones, and he made a big save in a big moment in the second half where Alexandre Pato made a good run in behind Anton Walks. It takes a deflection as Brad's already in the air. He gets the big paw down to keep it out, and he's able to smother the rebound. That's a huge, huge play for Brad Guzan. But in the build-up play, I thought he was vital as well. 42 of 55 passing. That might be the most passes Brad Guzan's ever had in an Atlanta United match. He was 16 of 29 on long passes over 25 yards. Brad plays the possession game a little bit differently than we saw Rocco Rios Novo do in the CONCACAF Champions League matches. Rocco is comfortable making the short pass. Brad will hit that ball into the outside backs. He's got good aim, good precision with chipping that ball in, skipping the lines a little bit, and letting Brooks Lennon and George Bello run. As good as Brad was as a goalkeeper and the technical side of goalkeeping, he's going to have to be equally as good this season with the ball at his feet and distribution.
And this is going to be a tough match for him coming up on Saturday. We'll get into it in a little bit. Barrett, Stojanovic, Chicago's front six, they're excellent. So Brad, not only in terms of keeping goal, but also being that communicator to organize the back line. This is going to be a tough match for him coming up on Saturday. But fortunately, at least for 45 minutes, he's going to have Atlanta supporters behind him because the supporter section is going to have fans. We're going to have 50% capacity at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this weekend. And if you're fortunate enough to have a ticket, I know a lot of you have questions. How's this going to work? What's the stadium going to look like on Saturday? And going forward, what can we expect for the rest of the season? Well, fortunately, Katie Griggs of Atlanta United is here to join us to talk a little bit about what to expect at home matches, both on Saturday and for the rest of the season. Well, Katie, this is a really exciting weekend. We've been looking forward to the home opener for a long time. I know that the players have talked about this. Darren has talked about it, that Atlanta United really missed the home stadium advantage last year with the fans being unable to attend for much of the season. So to just get 50% of capacity back into the stadium this weekend, I feel like it's going to be a huge competitive edge for Atlanta United.
No, I think we were very optimistic about the same thing, and frankly, we've missed our fans. I think the energy and excitement that they bring to the building is truly unlike anything else that I've experienced, frankly, in my career in professional sports. And the players feed off of it. I know the fans feed off of each other, and so we're really optimistic that by bringing 50% back, we'll be able to do so safely. But we also will be able to start to bring back some of those key elements that make an Atlanta United match so special.
Let's break the fourth wall just a little bit, Katie. How hard has it been for you, like navigating all of this? Because I'm sure these plans have changed on a daily, if not weekly basis to get fans back in the building.
No, I mean, look, this is the good challenge, right? Like this is why we do what we do. And so for us, it was obviously our preference. If we could have everyone back safely tomorrow and COVID didn't exist, that's where we want to be, right? But that's not where we are, and we know that. And so for us, it's really been the challenge of making sure that we're working with all of the requisite people at the league level, at the local level, in the health sector, to ensure that what we're doing is the right thing for our fans, the right thing for our athletes, the right thing for our associates, and the right thing for our community, right? And so, I mean, it's an interesting challenge. It's not necessarily one that I think any of us envisioned having to spend as much time as we have on about 18 months ago. But with that being said, this is why we do it. And so it's been a challenge. But I think we view it much more as an opportunity, and we're really, really excited to see all that hard work to come to fruition this coming weekend.
The one thing that stood out to me since August of last year when we started to get back into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, even though at that time they were closed-door matches, Jason and I were able to come into the stadium. And since then, the one thing that's really stood out to me, Katie, is just how thorough you and your team and the stadium staff has been to make sure that there's hand sanitizing stations all over the place, that the stadium is absolutely immaculate, that you can tell a lot of details have been planned out to make this as safe an experience as possible for people who are going to be attending these matches. Can you maybe talk briefly about some of the things that the team is doing at the stadium to keep it clean and keep it safe for everyone in attendance on Saturday?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's interesting. You referenced all of the hand sanitizer locations. We actually have an entire stadium map where there are little dots of thousands of hand sanitizer stations that are not just there randomly. Like, it's specific. Like, the good news is we know what our fan behavior looks like. We know what our staff behavior looks like. We know what our athlete behavior looks like. And so it really was a very intentional, like, none of those are just, we need to have 20 in this area. It really was going through and thinking through where are the right places to have them. So they're not going to create choke points and not going to create unnecessary gatherings of humans, but also are going to be in those places where when you're wanting to get hand sanitizer, you're like, look around, you're not having to walk around for it. You're going to see one. And basically anywhere you are in our building in terms of making sure that you can go and keep yourself clean and keep others safe and around you. I think other things, we have great partners over at Piedmont Healthcare who last fall provide us with masks for all of our fans who came into the building. This mask requirement remains in place this year. I think that's something where it is really important. Like I said, unfortunately, we are still where we are. And so the idea of making sure that obviously our staff, as well as our fans, are wearing masks and are sort of taking care of themselves and taking care of each other, that's something that's going to be really important. But from a sanitation standpoint, we have an army of men and women, and I really can't shout out our stadium staff enough. If you see one of these men and women, they are touching every touch point in the stadium and making sure that it's clean before our fans enter the building. But we also have an army that are going throughout the entire match to ensure that, hey, we know those places where fans are going to be congregating. We know those places where fans are going to be touching things. we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can on our side to ensure that it's a clean and sanitary environment. So you see one of these men or women, please thank them. They're doing yeoman's work out there.
So I've had a lot of fans reach out and talk about how excited they are to be back in the building this weekend. I think they know that it's not going to be like opening day last year, but it's not going to be like the games were at the end of last season either with people in the building. How close is it going to be in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think our hope is from an energy and atmosphere standpoint, it's going to start feeling a lot more like Atlanta United games of old. But with that being said, obviously, there are a lot of things that we're doing, some behind the scenes that aren't going to be terribly visible, some of which are going to be much more visible to keep everyone safe. And so to that end, last fall, as you referenced, once we were able to welcome fans back into the building, I'd call it directionally around 5,000 fans were able to join us for those last two home matches. 20,000, which is approximately 50% of our soccer capacity, it's a big difference. So it is going to feel different than it did in the fall. And I think that's a good thing. That's an opportunity of the steps that we as a society have taken forward, but also a recognition of a lot of things that we've learned since then. So things to think about. I mentioned masks already. I'm going to be a broken record on this one, but again, it's because we think it's important and we want to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to keep everyone safe. When you go and you have your seats, everywhere in the stadium is going to have assigned seating, including our supporter section. Obviously, we did do this in the fall, but it isn't normal, right? This isn't back to normal where that's a general admission section. And again, the reasoning behind that truly is to allow us to have distancing on either side of pods. I know there's been a lot of question about, oh, well, could you buy a single ticket or this, that, or the other thing? We have tickets set in pods intentionally, where if you have two season tickets or you have 4 season tickets, you have your group, but you've got space around your group. So you don't have your group right next to another group. So it's something where you'll get in there. You're going to see a lot of zip tied seats. Please don't break them. They're there to help keep everyone safe and help to note, hey, look, this is where your pod is. And so you have that breathing space to the right and left of your pod, in front of your pod and behind your pod to ensure that you and your family, friends, and guests are staying safe.
What about some of the match day traditions that unfortunately we kind of lost last year after the pandemic started? Things like the golden spike before the game, the players arriving on a bus and signing the spike and then coming into the stadium. Those little moments that happen before, during, and after the match. What is that going to look like on Saturday?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So some of those we really have had to continue to evolve. So when you're talking about player arrival is a great example, which is a key moment for us as a club and one we're very eager to get back to. We are staying away from having the players arrive on the front porch, sign the golden spike, and go through that way for now, simply because by definition, folks would congregate, right? And a lot of what we're trying to do is help fans maintain social distance. So creating an environment in which that natural behavior is to congregate around it is counter to that. And we want to make sure that we're being sensitive and cognizant of that. Though obviously, when it's safe to do so, that is something we will be bringing back. Same thing with the Delta Club walkthrough, right? It's something where, by definition, if we have the players walking in and out of Delta Club, we know fans are going to crowd around it. They want to see their heroes. They want to see those players. We don't want our fans to feel the need to congregate, right? That's counter to the social distancing. So that's something where we're not bringing it back quite yet. With that being said, there are elements that we are starting to bring back. So unlike last fall, we're going to have the golden spike back on that capo stand right in front of our supporter section. We are going to have capos. There's going to be a lot of activity in the supporters section. We've had really great conversations with all 4 of our registered supporter groups and couldn't be more excited for the energy and enthusiasm that I know they and their members have shown and will show again on Saturday. So there are going to be certain elements, again, where we can bring them back safely. We are looking to do so. Where there are places where, again, we want to make sure that we're not being the ones who are creating an incentive for unsafe behavior. We're being sensitive to those as well.
Another big question that people have asked me is tailgating, and if it's allowed, and can you do it, and where can you do it, and when could you do it if you can't do it yet? What does that look like from the club perspective?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because I know that's something that's really core to a lot of our fans and their match day traditions. So from our standpoint, I think something that perhaps our fans may or may not be aware of is a lot of the parking lots near our stadium actually aren't controlled by us as a club. And so therefore, the rules and regulations of those lots are actually controlled by someone else. So I don't want to speak too broadly, but what I can say is using Home Depot backyard as an example, because that is a club and entity owned lot, we are going to be allowing tailgating. The question, sort of what we would say is just, it's a common sense. It's a common sense thing, right? Keep yourself safe, keep your guests safe, keep your fans safe, respect those around you. wear masks if you're not in your little cohort, if you're wandering around to use the restrooms or things like that. Again, just put on your mask. But again, we are not prohibiting tailgating as a club. Again, I can't speak to all of the outer lots that we don't necessarily can control. To our understanding, none of our supporter groups are going to be putting on their big tailgate events quite yet, though I know that they and we are eager to get back to that as soon as it's safe to do so.
I'm eager to have the stadium 100% full, and I know many people watching us are eager for that as well. I know this is a question you get a lot, so it's going to be 50% on Saturday, 50% the following Tuesday against Philadelphia. Then there's another match on the 15th against Montreal. What's that going to look like as far as how many people are going to be allowed in the building, and what will it look like going forward as we get into May and June and the rest of the season?
No, it's a great question, and I think from our standpoint, we've been pretty consistent. We understand that the world is changing rapidly, right? And I am not a public health expert. So what we want to do is make sure that we're working with people who are public health experts to inform our decision. And the reality is, because the data changes so rapidly, we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of that, the most current data. With that being said, we also know that fans need to plan, right? So what I will tell you is we're looking at May 15th now. We're working and collaborating with folks at the league level, folks locally, to understand what we think is going to be safe and achievable for that date. And we're expecting to communicate back out to fans next week.
Katie, what are you most looking forward to about Saturday?
I'm excited for the energy. I feed off it. I know our team feeds off of it. It's something where I've missed it terribly, from talking to everyone else in the organization. I think we do this for the fans. We all live here in Atlanta. This is our home. It's not just, going and clocking in, going to the office, clocking out, coming home. Like, we do this because we care. We do this because of the excitement, the energy, and the fun that it brings. And it's been a while since we've had that. And I think we're really optimistic that on Saturday, not only will the guys put on a great show on pitch, but that energy and excitement and environment that I know we all care about should be on its way back as well.
Well, hearing some of the things that you've told us has me really excited, because it's going to be great to have fans back in the building like that, to see some of the traditions start to return. Katie, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on Saturday.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's get a note from the Proving Ground, and we're starting to see a lot of Atlanta United's homegrown players really become valuable contributors to the first team, and now ATL UTD2 is back up and running this weekend as well. But Jason, let's start with Machop Chol, who was not only available for selection on Saturday in Orlando, but played a substantial portion of the second half.
It's great to see a homegrown make their debut, and Machop Chol's a player who has put in the work from the academy, going to Wake Forest and becoming a star at Wake Forest, and then coming back on a homegrown deal. He developed so much during his time in the ACC as not just a great 1v1 winger, but also somebody who could get into the 18 and put balls in the back of the net. This preseason for him was essential. We've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times. Gabriel Heinze is asking more of him, and I thought he really set him up to succeed with the substitution, bringing him on first on the right side, trying to create a favorable matchup for him to run at Kyle Smith, also not having to defend quite as much at the very beginning. Then he switched over to the left, which is hard for a young player to do. Machop handled it really well and had a great opportunity late in that game on the back post. He didn't get a great look at the ball coming through. He did get a touch to it. Going forward, you want to see him crashing that back post and scoring goals.
But he's going to get a big confidence builder just by making his MLS regular season debut. And now we get into the point of the season where ATL UTD2 is up and running. And Heinze even talked about this week, how he's got some homegrown players who really need to get games. So even though they're on the first team roster, there's a chance you could see them pop up with ATL UTD2, which begins their season tomorrow in Louisville.
Gabriel Heinze used the reserve program at Vélez Sarsfield to great effect to give young players an opportunity to grow in confidence. And he's going to do the same with Atlanta United too, with homegrowns on this roster who might be on the bench on Saturday night, might miss the game day roster. It's an opportunity for them to travel with the team and go to Louisville and get meaningful minutes. You go back through Atlanta United 2's history. Miles Robinson played a lot of minutes in 2018, late in the year. That prepared him for success in 2019. George Bello coming back from injury, and even before the injuries, playing minutes with the twos, developing into a player that is vital for the first team now. Jack Gurr this year, coming off of a great year with Atlanta United too. He earns that first team deal. This is the proving ground. It's the next generation for Atlanta United as a club. And I think now we see how valuable it can be with Rocco Rios Novo, who was brought here to be part of the twos. He had to step in CONCACAF. He did well. Efrain Morales on a first-team deal. He's been loaned to Atlanta United too. At 16, he needs as many games as he can get. He scored in his debut last year in USL Championship. Mackie Jope is one of the fun players in this league. No Mackie, no party. You've got to keep an eye on him in the attacking half. Philip Goodrum is a really creative player in the final third who can score and assist. And you've added a couple of guys in Robbie Mertz from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds and Darwin Mateos from Zamora in his native Venezuela. Mateos is a player that Atlanta United 2 signed on a free transfer. He was out of contract. A guy who scored goals in the Venezuelan First Division. Not your typical USL Championship kind of signing. You've got a lot of firepower for Atlanta United 2 up front. And that's not even getting into guys who could come down and play like a Jackson Conway, like a Tyler Wolf, who will find the back of the net. Machope Chol maybe as well to get him minutes and keep him sharp. Goals should not be a problem for Atlanta United 2 this year. Highly recommend checking these matches out.
Also want to give a shout to Aiden McFadden, who has been signed in the last few days, super draft pick out of Notre Dame. So that ACC to Atlanta United pipeline continues. 7:30 will be the kickoff on Saturday for Atlanta United 2. Boy, that's a tough challenge, having to start the season in Louisville, one of the big clubs in USL Championship. But you can check it out on ESPN Plus Saturday and ESPN Plus all year. The home matches will be narrated by John Nelson and by Jason. We're certainly looking forward to that. All right. It was, shall we say, Jason, an eventful first week in Major League Soccer. A lot of great matches, ton of draws. Atlanta United was not the only team to play to a draw week one, especially in the Eastern Conference. In fact, most of the matches involving Eastern Conference teams ended in draws. You take a look at the results there, but I think what stood out to me, Jason, about this first week was the quality of play after the league had been dormant for 4+ months was really, really high for an opening week, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I thought you saw what we love about this league. You saw a few surprising results with Minnesota struggling in Seattle. I didn't see that one coming. I thought the Loons were going to be looking for revenge after the Western Conference final last year. New York City is a team that people are asking questions about going into week 2 after a loss to DC. Toronto, a little more understandable, their loss to Montreal because of the injuries that Toronto's dealing with. But Montreal may be surprised with the quality of that win. And then you had the back and forth games that we love about this league with Nashville and Cincinnati, Miami and LA Galaxy. You know, you saw some kind of wild games at times, and not all of them were MLS after dark either. We had some MLS in the middle of the day wild games like the one in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we started Friday night with a little MLS After Dark. I really do appreciate Houston and San Jose for entertaining us to begin the seasons. It's often very difficult to be that first match out of the gate in MLS, just like it is being that first Thursday night game of the season in the NFL. Everyone's watching, but Houston and San Jose really got the season off on the right foot on Friday night.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that and some of the other great goals and sequences from week 1. Houston got it started. Memo Rodriguez, a player that I feel like is incredibly underrated in this league, with a nice goal to get things started. Houston won the match, but maybe San Jose had the best goal of the match with Paul Marie and a bomb from distance. We'll see that in just a second. The Memo goal is a little bit more difficult than you might think. He gets the goalkeeper leaning one way. Paul Marie's goal is very difficult because it is a rocket from 25 yards. And it had some right to left on it, curling into the far side netting. No chance for the goalkeeper to get there. Seattle then took over the goal of the year candidacy with Joao Paulo, who controls it first time, pops it back up to himself, and hits a rocket. I don't know what's better, the shot or the first touch to control it and pop it up to himself to be able to hit that shot. Both are just exquisite. DC, in their win, had a great goal of the week candidate, Brendan Hines-Ike, from about 30 yards out with a rocket. They need these sorts of things because DC has a ton of injuries in the back right now. He's going to have to play a lot. Caden Clark, one of the young players in this league that is earning a lot of plaudits. Really quick reaction on the volley there to give the Red Bulls their lone goal. Randall Leal, I don't know, Mike. Was it a cross or was it a shot?
It's in. It doesn't matter, right?
You call it a shot afterwards. I think he was crossing. Nashville could have won this match if not for Titon, the goalkeeper for Cincinnati. He's had injuries. He's been in and out of the team for them. He showed why they brought him in with an incredible performance. Over 30 shots for Nashville. That big defensive team in Nashville, Titon earned a point for Cincinnati. The fireworks continued in Fort Lauderdale with Miami and LA Galaxy. Chicharito with the 2 goals, a great post-game interview as well. But it's Sasha Klestjan's winner for the Galaxy that has been completely overlooked all week to hit that first time, to pop it off of the inside of the post. What a winning goal for Klestjan.
All right, so here's the slate for this week. And look, Atlanta United is going to play Philadelphia on Tuesday, first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals. Then they're going to go up to Foxborough to play New England on Saturday. So those are 2 matches I am really zeroed in on, Jason. How's Philadelphia going to look this weekend? And how's New England going to look? Because New England really, after being shell-shocked in the first 20 minutes against Chicago last Saturday, grew into that match and played very well.
The new player availability report, which replaces our old injury report, because you have some other categories right now that affect player availability. DC has 11 players on the bad side of that report. A lot of starters are not going to be available for DC. I think New England will be fine. I'm not too worried about the Revs. How much do they get tested? If you're an Atlanta fan, you'd like to see them get tested a lot before they come and before they host Atlanta next weekend. Philadelphia, does Jim Curtin subscribe to Gabriel Heinze's theory of not rotating, of playing your first choice? They've got more injuries to deal with than Atlanta's dealing with at the moment. So I'm curious to see what the starting 11 is for the Union. The 2 big highlight games for me this weekend, the 2 nationally televised ones, LAFC hosting Seattle at 6 o'clock on Saturday, LA Galaxy hosting New York Red Bulls on Sunday at 5:30. Can Chicharito repeat his brace and get a couple of goals against a Red Bulls team that was not bad in week 1 against Sporting Kansas City, but ultimately lost at home? And LAFC and Seattle were the 2 teams that had maybe 2 of the biggest wins in week 1. Neither team conceded. LAFC's had the better of the Sounders in regular season play, but Seattle has 2 wins against them last year and has that big playoff win against them from 2019. That's a grudge match in the Western Conference early.
I thought Seattle was the most impressive team week 1, the way that they just dismantled a Minnesota side that we think will be very, very good this year. I'm also anxious to see some of the surprise winners from the first week. Vancouver, Montreal. Vancouver really stands out to me with their win over Portland Timbers. How are they going to back up what they did in week 1 as well?
Yeah, there's a couple teams like DC, like Montreal, like Vancouver that caught us by surprise in week 1. Can they put together a run? Can they continue to surprise us? Or was it, kind of the start of the season where, look, we've seen it, 2018 when Atlanta went to Houston and it was a bad opening day. It didn't end up being a great season for Houston. It ended up being a great season for Atlanta. So is it an aberration? Or those wins that DC and Montreal and Vancouver had, are those the sign that maybe those teams were being underrated coming into the season?
Well, don't forget now, Atlanta United playing Philadelphia Union at the Benz Tuesday night. That will be 7:30 or 8 o'clock, on FS1. So keep an eye on that match that Philadelphia will be playing this weekend. That'll offer a good scouting report. But our sole focus right now is on Chicago Fire, the home opener at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Chicago, a team that has had some recent success against Atlanta United. They beat them 2-0 at Soldier Field last year. Remember, though, Atlanta United did not have a designated player available that night. They're going to have all three of their designated players at least available, if not playing on Saturday. Hopefully that will help. But I was so impressed with Chicago, especially in the first 20 minutes of their match against New England on Saturday. They played wide open, Jason, and they looked very, very threatening in their attack. Their front six is very, very solid, and this is going to be a tough match for Atlanta United.
Yeah, the start of that match was pretty wild at Soldier Field last weekend, and we'll look at these highlights now. One of the best goals of week one, and it didn't have a flashy long-range bomb. It was well worked with about 12 passes from Chicago to find Baric inside the six. They added a second really quickly, and a player that could be essential in this match on the weekend in Luka Stojanovic. But then they conceded two off of set pieces. One off a corner where it's just a bad marking job. Adam Buxa goes up over everybody and wins it, not really contested. And then the equalizer comes off of a throw. It's a throw-in down the right side that New England gets in behind. Chicago fell asleep on two set pieces. And for a team that's still trying to develop their identity, that can happen at times. Atlanta has to be ready to take advantage of those moments. But the game had some twists and turns as we got late in it. New England had chances to win. Chicago had chances to win. New England hit the bar really late in the 87th minute. It was a very back and forth game between two teams that we kind of look at in New England and Chicago, two teams that Atlanta is going to have to deal with here early, that are both, in my opinion, right below. I think New England's a little further ahead, but right below that upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. I think Atlanta's right there with them coming into the season because of all the new faces, because of what we saw in 2020. So these 2 weeks for Atlanta United, combined with what New England and Chicago are doing, do we get any answers by the end of next weekend about who stands where in those power rankings?
Yeah, and also the Philadelphia match, which isn't an MLS match. Atlanta United is going to be testing itself against three teams over the next, say, 8 days, depending on when you're watching us. And all three of their opponents, plus Orlando, who they just played to a scoreless draw, those could all be top 7 teams in the East. They could all be playoff teams, and you could put Atlanta in that mix. So trying to look at the positive here, this is a good way to, I guess, activate the season a little bit. There's no easing into this season for Atlanta United. I'm really excited to see Baric and Stojanovic, who both had really, really productive games, now playing on the road and playing in that atmosphere of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where Atlanta United, it's like we talked about with Katie Griggs, it's going to make such a difference, even if it's at 50% capacity, just getting fans back into the building. When these teams last played at Soldier Field last fall, it was a completely empty stadium. I think Atlanta United probably suffered more than just about any other MLS club by having an empty stadium for most of last season, because the home advantage in Atlanta is so robust compared to most, if not every other market in this league.
It's one of the best home field advantages in this hemisphere. Not even exaggerating. When you look at any league in this hemisphere, what Atlanta gets out of their home crowd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it's special. And to have everybody back in the building this weekend when times get tough, and we saw it in Orlando, we saw it against Alajuelense, because you're still figuring things out, you're still making mistakes. You need that boost from the 17s, and this team will get that on Saturday. You know, you got to a degree in Kennesaw for the Alajuelense match. You're going to get it to a much larger degree on Saturday night.
Well, my prediction for last week in Orlando was that Santiago Sosa would have an assist. And in my defense, if Atlanta United would have found a way to score against Orlando, Santiago Sosa probably would have had an assist. Passed at 90%, did everything right, didn't get the assist, though. We're going to try to look forward with our predictions, not necessarily look back, because I think by the end of the year, I don't want to be 0 for 34. Jason will probably be much better than 0 for 34, so let's just look ahead.
I'm 0 for 1. I had Marcelino Moreno with a goal or an assist. I thought Marcelino played pretty well. He was more effective in the Tuesday match against Alawalense. He got more shots off. I want to see him, especially in this one, running at Sekulic, the right back for Chicago, because it'll make Sekulic have to defend, which is good. You don't want him to join the attack. And I think his strong suit of his game is when he gets forward. So Moreno can create some havoc there. I'm not going back to Marcelino with my prediction, though. My prediction in this one is Atlanta United gets a goal or an assist from a substitute.
Okay.
I think what we're starting to see is Gabriel Heinze is starting to get a feel for the whole group. And it's something that multiple players have mentioned here, including Atlanta United 2 players, by the way. Gabriel Heinze doesn't just focus on his starters. He doesn't just focus on the players that we might say are the important players. He focuses on everybody in the club, including the Atlanta United 2 players, because it is about building a whole philosophy and a holistic approach. I think he's also starting to get to know what buttons to push to change games. I thought his substitutions were very good in Orlando. I think this time he gets a goal or an assist from a substitute. That's my prediction of the week.
Okay, you mentioned Moreno running at Sekulic. That kind of goes into my prediction. Atlanta United will get a goal off a direct free kick or penalty.
Okay.
Why do I say that? Chicago last week committed the 5th most fouls of any team in MLS. I have a feeling they're going to commit some fouls, maybe some tactical fouls against Atlanta United on Saturday. That's going to produce a good set piece or 2 or 3 in the attacking third. And I'm going to say on a direct free kick or penalty, Atlanta United is going to get at least 1 goal on Saturday. A lot of people are clamoring for goals in open play. I get it. We all want to see as many goals in open play as possible, but I want to see goals, period. And if we get a screamer from Barco off a direct free kick or a penalty from Barco or Moreno or Joseph, I'll take it.
I'll give you one more prediction as a bonus. If Joseph Martinez gets a goal with his new hair color, he keeps it for next week.
And I'll make a prediction that I will never dye my hair pink ever. If you haven't seen Joseph's Insta,
love it.
A much different, noticeable look for Joseph Martinez this week. But you know what? I think that tells me that Joseph is very, very loose coming into this match on Saturday, and that might be very bad news for Chicago Fire. So we'll have to wait and see. We want to thank you for joining us on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. We're glad you're enjoying the new expanded format. Leave us a comment here on YouTube or on Twitter, anywhere on social media. If there's anything else you'd like for us to get to as the season goes on, we're more than happy to take your feedback and add it into the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. As far as the match on Saturday is concerned, it'll be an 8 o'clock kickoff, 8:08 technically, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You can watch the match on Bally Sports South. You can listen to Jason and I on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game, and also Sirius XM channel 157. The Atlanta United app will have it. The Odyssey app will have it as well. So we will look forward to hopefully 3 points for Atlanta United and hopefully a big week. Saturday against Chicago, then Tuesday, the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinal first leg against Philadelphia Union. We'll see you this time next week as we look ahead to, if I said New England in the CONCACAF Champions League, I meant Philadelphia. This is what happens when I don't have cue cards. But we will look ahead to the New England match.
Producer.
On the next, yeah, I know. Where's the producer, right? We will look forward to the New England match on the next edition of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff, and we will see you next week.